Ladies and gentlemen, it's 2021. Woo! Thank goodness we're out of 2020. But for all you educators out there, at least most of you, we go back on Monday. The fight still continues. The fight goes on. So, one, I hope you all got your rest. By the way, I'm Silas Knowles, the ZB Pirate for the PB Podcast, coming at you in 2021. If you are joining us on our YouTube channel, please feel free to comment. Join in on the discussion. We have an awesome guest today. But little things, I've never felt more lazy than the last 2 weeks of my life. I've tried to get up before 10 o'clock every day. That's been a goal. And yeah, it's been real. I've read 2 books over this time. So that was an accomplishment of myself. And there were 2 books not associated with work. So that was always a good thing. So I want to, before we bring on our guest today, just a little bit of business. This is for pushboundconsulting.com, an educational consulting firm. We specialize in all forms of professional development. We have a team of 16 plus, literally spanning the globe. So if you are someone who is in need, administrator, educator, you know your school's in need of professional development that is tailored to your school, please give us a ring. pushboundconsulting.com, DM me at ZB Pirate. I will connect you with the right people and we'll get that going for 2021. We hope that we'll be doing professional developments in person this year. Fingers crossed, things are starting to come down, but you know, new mutations, new things are on the horizon. So, but please give us a call. Please let us know. And yeah, and hopefully everyone rested up and we'll push strong to 2021 and close out the year on a great mark. So today we have Dr. Amy Fast, educational commentator, author, principal, pretty much everything all around. And I had to bother her at her parents' house. Hi, Dr. Fast. How are you?
No, thank you.
She is in Oregon. Every time I hear Oregon, I got to say, go Ducks, because it's just what you do. So, Dr. Fast, first thing I got to ask you, first of all, thank you for joining us today, but how's break been? How has your vacation been so far? You are a principal, so I know your plate is very full.
Yeah, I've been doing a whole lot of nothing, which is unusual for me. I think a lot of educators didn't have a break this summer because we were trying to punt and prepare for what the fall would bring. We didn't really know what that was. So this is probably the first day off I've had since last March. First time off, but I'm also kind of a restless person. So after a few days of doing nothing, I'm ready to get back at it.
Now I feel bad. I'm sitting there talking about how I'm trying to get up before 10.
It's all good. Listen, I'm in bed by 8, so I'm a morning person, but I'm a early to bed kind of gal.
I mean, even teaching and everything else, I'm trying to be a morning person. Coffee is not my deal. I can do iced coffee. The hard stuff I can't do. And then, you know, I mean, everyone always asks me, they're just like, Mr. Knowles, are you okay? I said, ask me by 3rd, 4th.
Right. Period. Don't be at my first period class.
Yeah. It's like, are you one of those principals that would come into my first period class and do an observation right away? Or would you?
I won't do that to you. Strength-based leadership, right? I
always talk to my administrators. I go, look, I know you have me this year. 3rd hour, 4th hour, 5th hour. And last year I had an evaluation 1st hour and I did well, but I look back on it and I go, I said this? This is what I did. I don't remember this. This is something I don't remember. So coming into 2021 and everything else, what's your big thing that you want to take back to your school? You're a principal, you're an administrator. What's the big thing you want to take to your school going into 2021 and really push for to change in education in your school, I mean, or in general?
Well, sure. I think the big thing that every educator has come to realize through the course of this pandemic is that there are some incredible inequities that exist in the field of education. And, you know, I think we knew that to some extent. We had some information and data to confirm that was happening in our schools around the country, but we didn't understand the extent to which that was really happening. And so my platform has always been about measuring what matters. And I think that this experience these last 8 or 9 months, however long we've been in this, make me just feel the necessity to double down on that platform, because the fact that we could allow ourselves to not see certain things by having this kind of, sometimes I say that our laser-like focus in education has the danger of becoming tunnel vision. And we had this laser-like focus on some of our measurements that allowed us to put some other things, and therefore some other kids, like out of our minds and on the peripheral. And that's really dangerous. And so my big platform is always measuring what matters.
So to you, what matters?
Sure. Well, so this was like the whole bulk of my research and what I'm always passionate about in education. I'm a super like big picture person, like zoomed 30,000 feet out. And about 10 years into education, I was a 5th grade teacher for 10 years. And then I was an instructional coach prior to becoming an administrator. And, I thought there were so many things that our students needed that no one seemed to really, I say no one, everyone cared about it, but no one really collected information about it. Nobody discussed those things at meetings in a meaningful way. Nobody had a really strategic or intentional way to address those things. So I went and got my doctorate. And so my research was really, what is the purpose of public education, which again, big picture topic. Mm-hmm. And what I determined, at least in my view, the purpose of education is it lies at the intersection of 3 main things. So academic achievement is, of course, a main purpose in public education. I think we all can understand and underscore that. As are foundational skills. So you hear people refer to them as soft skills. So like leadership, teamwork, communication, all those things that are seemingly intangible, but really schools, in my opinion, should be also tasked with helping students to grow in those areas. And then the third thing is intrinsic drive. So we really should see it as our mission to also inspire and motivate and make our students, help our students to find a purpose in what they do in their work and in their lives. And so to me, the purpose of school is the intersection of those 3 things: academics, the foundational skills, and then the intrinsic drive of our students. And in order to, unfortunately, I think everyone who's been a part of schools has experienced that if we aren't paying attention to it, if we're not measuring it, we're not looking at it, if we're not looking at it, we're not really doing it well. And I say that because it's on one hand really unfortunate, the idea of, a lot of times people say, like, if you don't test it, you don't teach it. And I'm not a huge proponent of testing. That's only because I think that oftentimes what we test isn't super meaningful. So in my opinion, we should be measuring students like intrinsic drive, and that includes their engagement, their motivation, their hopefulness, their belonging, their sense of significance in our school and our communities. We should be measuring those foundational skills like students' leadership, their problem-solving skills, their creativity, all those pieces, as well as their academic achievement. And when I say that, people freak out because they think, oh my God, all those extra things, like what is going to come off our plates? Already schools are tasked with like doing everything for society. And I think that when we do the right thing, like when we do the meaningful thing, it's going to be really clear what can go easily. Or
I could just foresee your teachers right now, like in watching this or hearing you say this, they're like, we have so much to do already. Jeez, boss. Come on.
Right.
And I get what you're saying with the 3 things to intersect and really get, but what do you think? Because I have my own opinion on this one, but what do you think is the hardest that you felt that in education that is the one thing that's the hardest to get? The academic, the intrinsic, or the foundational skills? I mean, what do you think is the one thing that is really like we need to really push for?
Sure, that's a really
loaded.
I honestly think I think every school community is unique, so it might be different for every student in every school community. Personally, my passion has always been in the motivation part of things, and I think that's because that's kind of an art form, and that's really something that you can't systematize. Like you can't just buy a packaged curriculum to improve students' motivation. You really have to have that passion, that relational capacity, that like going student by student by student and individualizing how you serve them in a school. So I would say, I would say the academics so hard, and also probably unfortunately the easiest part of that triple Venn diagram.
Right.
to accomplish, but they're also so interconnected, right? Like achieving that academic excellence without having the students intrinsically want to learn is really hard to do. Also achieving that if they don't have the skills of like time management and all those other pieces that we consider the foundational skills is also tricky. That's why they're so intertwined, that they're necessary to happen simultaneously.
That's the thing though. It's like, and what do you mean? We can't go to curriculum publishers and be like, you don't have anything for intrinsic motivation? Come on. It's like, you give me the motivation, you give me the information, but you don't give me, you can't help me motivate these students with information. I mean, come on, it's right. So easy.
And let me just say, like, I don't see that intrinsic drive piece as a thing that like teachers are supposed to develop lesson plans for and teach. I see it as like the undercurrent of everything else. It's the culture we create in the school. It's the way in which, like, as a high school principal, it's making sure we sustain and create programs that are relevant to kids and that kids find inspiring. Like having at our school, I was fortunate when I came on board, we already had 17 career pathways. So whether a student wanted to weld or be in law enforcement or cook or like all those things existed for them. And so it's not necessarily up to the individual classroom teachers to necessarily do the systematic things that create that intrinsic drive. Their job is just building those relationships that help to inspire students and get them excited about their content.
And I think one of the things, even especially during this pandemic, and please chime in when you feel appropriate, but I think it's just getting that intrinsic motivation, even now, to get the students to like do the work. It's just, you saw at the beginning. I mean, I don't know about your school, but at my school, we had a high, everyone was in, they bought in and everything was going up and up and up. And then we hit a wall somewhere that I don't know where it came from. And then everything just dropped like a rock. Attendance went down, work turn-in rate went down and everything. And then it started to even out a little bit. Then it went down, then it went up a little bit. I mean, what have you found that helps you guys navigate at your school to help, help everyone get in?
It's such a demoralizing place for teachers to be right now. And I was telling you before we got on here, like I'm teaching an advisory class and I can't get my kids to turn on their cameras. So I feel it. And the students who need to be there the most aren't attending. So I'm also a firm believer that from positions like mine, if we say we value it, then we make time for it. So whether it's extra pay or extra time or carving time out of teachers' schedules to do that work. Right now, I do believe that most important part of that triple VEN is the intrinsic drive piece. And there's a lot of students who have it but can't access their education because, there's other parts of their basic needs that aren't being met. And so that's what, maybe we shouldn't have to do that at schools. Maybe we shouldn't be tasked with feeding our communities and tasked with making sure our students have homes and all those things. But the reality is that's what they need. And if we're going to serve them, then we need to do our best to provide those things for them. So right now we have teachers that we are freeing up time for or changing their job descriptions so that they can really just be there to serve our families and connect with our families. They're going on home visits. I mean, we have 200 staff members. I'd say maybe a fourth of them have been going on regular home visits.
That's cool.
Meeting kids at restaurants. So, obviously like safe physical distancing, but, really the nice thing about working for or working with staff who have a really clear purpose, a really clear why, like our school really knows what it is that we want for our kids right now, is that the work that's most important isn't a mystery. Like we all know what that most important work is. They know that they have my support in doing that work, and the other things will take a backseat right now to do that work. And so it's actually, while it's been extremely demoralizing in some respects to work as an educator right now, it's also probably one of the most inspiring times that I've been in this profession, because I'm just seeing some just greatness from educators out there, and the amount of heart and care that they put in for their kids and their communities. It's just super inspiring, and something that I don't want to see go away, and not their heart and their care go away, but I don't want to see things like home visits being a norm going away when we return to in-person school. I don't want to see the amount of outreach for families that we have now, which is increased exponentially in this pandemic for schools across the country. I don't want to see that go away when we go back to school, because that impact has been tremendous. Like the intimacy that we have with our families in a giant school like ours is something that I would have never imagined we could have in our community. It's pretty cool.
I think that's the one thing. It's unfortunate that, and I'm glad you said it, it's unfortunate that a pandemic had to open everyone's eyes to everyone at home and what they were going through. And yeah, I'm with you right there. I hope if we do go back to a sense of normalcy sometime in the future, that we don't lose that we continue the home visits, that we continue to help our families, and know that, because some teachers would come to me and be like, did you know Johnny was in the situation, or Billy was in the situation? Or that? Yeah.
Right.
How did you know? Like, well, I picked up the phone and called them.
Exactly. To me, it would be unethical to go back to things like traditional grading in high schools after this. And I know that sounds like hyperbole. Like, I know it sounds out there, but it really, we've learned so much about how some of the ways in which our grading systems are set up are actually set up to evaluate a student's circumstances rather than their effort or abilities. And that's just, it's not okay.
I think that's the next step, though. I think that's something should come of this, that someone would probably write something and just take Marzano and everyone and be like, have that shocked look on their face, be like, oh my God, this is the new, because this is what happens during these kind of things. It's like people step to the front and really show what they can do and really change the game. And I think people with the technology and what we're into and everything else, and in Illinois, I'm in Chicago, it's like we were, or at least I was, and some teacher colleagues were trying to meet students and trying to find students and meet them at restaurants and meet them at their homes in socially distant situations. But now we can't even do that since everything's shut down again.
Yeah.
So it's just like, it's like even Starbucks. God, teachers and Starbucks, we need Starbucks. We need Starbucks.
Right.
Starbucks, Chicago, open up.
If you don't get anything else from this podcast, open the Starbucks up.
Starbucks and Panera. Okay. Panera has free refills and stuff. So taking a little bit of a little turn to transition to a question. I've had a question for 3 days, and I really need the answer. And I talked to our buddy, Dr. Jetter, and he said I should ask you this question. So
shoot.
In communicating and doing the homework for this podcast, I had asked Dr. Jetter for your direct email, and he had it, and he gave it to me, and I looked at it, and I looked at your Twitter handle, and can you tell me the significance of Fast Crayon? Now, for everyone who's listening or watching, Fast Crayon is Dr. Fast's Twitter handle, and her Gmail is something, I'm not going to give the full email, but it has some type of derivative of crayon.
Why are you asking this question? It's really not a good answer. When I first got on Twitter, I didn't understand that the handle was something people saw, or like it was like,
right.
Yes, I thought it was just some like weird password type thing. And apparently there's a few Amy Fast, and so I literally was like typing different things in, and that's like the final one that like was accepted. And I could have just done like Amy Fast 5 or 6 or 7. I don't know. And
so that was a suggested password or a suggested Twitter handle.
We just went with it.
That's awesome.
It means nothing.
I thought there's some significance to it. Like there was like you were like a former art teacher, or like
you love art. Art's my jam. So no, not an art teacher.
It's like you had this like wonderful story about Crayola
coloring, but no.
So okay, the mystery solved. So Dr. Jetter we've sufficed our curiosity because we looked at it, we're just like, because you could kind of piece together, but you're just saying, So we wanted to ask. So that's all. And there's
no sense making from it whatsoever.
He'll yell at me later. He's like, "Don't bring my name up on the podcast." I'm like, hey, sorry.
It's all good. It's all good.
Going into this new calendar year, what's the one thing you hope you can give your teachers this year that you didn't do last?
That's a good question. that I didn't do last year. Well, I think what they need is different, right? So like last year when we started the year and we didn't know there was a global pandemic coming, we were kind of really focused on joy, like having this strong sense of hope and happiness and joy in our learning and in our school, and just creating this culture where, you know, people want to be, essentially. And I think, you know, teachers are similar to, well, teachers are humans just like our students, and that whole Maslow's hierarchy applies to them too. And, you know, they want to be able to just like exhale a little bit and feel a sense of safety and normalcy. And the hard part for me is my skill set is not normalcy. Like, it's not those things.
We have to understand, though, we are educators. We're not normal.
No, there's
we're not normal.
So like I am someone who strangely loves change. I love like pushing the limits of things. I love disrupting I love disruptors. I love all of that. And so it is a stretch for me. I have to constantly talk to myself about like what people need right now is just predictability and normalcy and like safety. And it's been a big learning experience for me to how to lead in that way where people just feel a sense of comfort and calm and predictability, because that's typically not my style. Not that I like to make people uncomfortable. Well, I kind of do like to make people uncomfortable. More so, I just kind of like to be a little bit more edgy and on the edge of the cliff of change all the time, and dreaming and creating big plans and innovating. And that's not really. We have so many teachers who are really excited to flip the script when we come back in person and change some of the things we do in schools. And their time has come, and I'm going to give them that platform, and we're going to rock and roll and make things happen. But what people need from me right now is just to feel secure and safe.
That's well said. I mean, I think people are just so uncertain. We had a teacher retire 1 year early because of this whole pandemic, because he was like very germophobic and stuff. So I mean, definitely it's a very weird time. It's a very weird time. Have you seen teachers from not necessarily your school, but your area? Have you seen teachers leave because of this pandemic? Like just get up and go?
I don't know that I know of a lot of teachers who have resigned, but I do know of some who this was kind of like the straw that made them decide that retirement was the right time. I mean, we've been, we haven't been doing any kind of hybrid anything since this started. So we've been entirely virtual for all these months right now. And it's just not a lot of people's jam. I mean, it's really hard to feel fulfilled in the work when you can't even see students' faces. It's not what they signed up for. So there's that piece where it's just like the work isn't as fulfilling and it's impossible. The work's always impossible. Now it's 10 times more impossible. And then you add to that the fear factor, right, of people not wanting to get sick or get others sick. And it definitely makes people question their purpose, I think, and question their efforts. But I still can't think of any profession that's more worth our efforts and our time than the one we're in. And that's why I'm just like, man, let's get this vaccine. Let's get to a place where we can safely get back in schools. Because if we can weather this storm, I truly believe that education will be better for it in the end.
I mean, what job or what profession doesn't weather a storm of some kind? Like, in the medical field, you have COVID, you have a production company that has some type of shutdown for some machine parts or whatever the case may be. I mean, if you love your profession, that's why education, I feel, my opinion, we're all a bunch of weirdos. And I think that's what makes us unique, because we all are loose a couple brain cells somewhere, but we all come together because we want to make it happen for our kids, and we all want to make it happen for our students. Tell me about your book.
Well, so I didn't know I was writing a book when I wrote it.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, my book is actually my dissertation. And then my dissertation chair said, so your last assignment, Amy, is, someday you may want to write a book or something. So your last assignment is to practice like pitching this to a publisher or whatever. And so he gave me the names of a few publishing companies, and I literally just took the top of the list that he gave me in his assignment, and I just sent it to just the first publishing company. And I was fortunate enough that they sent me back a book contract. I'm like, you're kidding me, this is crazy. And then I thought, of course, like, okay, well, no one but my mom will read this. So it was just kind of something that was fun. But now, you know, I don't know how many years later, 5 years later since I wrote it, and I look back, and it's kind of cool because, you know, it's this like manifesto of mine that was written when I was a instructional coach / classroom teacher. So I was, you know, in the weeds of the work, and it's kind of like, now that it's in black and white, I don't get to get shady in this job. Like I wrote things down that my own superintendent doesn't like that are in black and white, you know, as a passionate classroom teacher. And so now it kind of holds me to my why. It holds me to what I believe philosophically and ethically about this profession. And that's a good thing, I think, even if no one else ever reads it.
Oh, well, I mean, it's been up there. It has some good reviews. You know, I was doing my homework.
They're all my mom. They're all, just kidding.
What is the title so everyone can know?
It's the mission, not the mandates, defining the purpose of public education.
So if anyone's looking for a good after Christmas read, it is on Amazon. Some good and I'm sure Dr. Fast would love some 5-star reviews.
So
good.
Or you can just read my tweets, are kind of like a synopsis of what's in the book. So you can save yourself some money and just read my tweets.
If you go on your Twitter and be like, oh, there's chapter 1, there's chapter 4, there's chapter 7. Well, you did tweet something today. I mean, you did your student perception surveys a little while ago. I mean, you know, with SEL and everything else, I mean, I think I think we focus a lot more, and I know we did as a school at my school, we focused a lot more on the SEL on the front end. And then we wanted, like in world history, we're supposed to get to Rome by the end of the first semester. And it's like, we were way behind because we were so focused on the SEL on the front end. We ran out of time, and we couldn't get there. So we had to cut out a little bit here, a little bit there to be able to get back on track. So, I mean, I think going forward, what you were talking about before with the intrinsic motivation, that we should have that part of the regular curriculum going forward, you know, and some aspect of it, but it's, you know, I think it needs to be revamped for everyone because. Well,
and I don't think like people, if I think I must be not a great communicator sometimes, because I think people read things I have to say and they think that I'm like for SEL at the expense of other things. And Tony Wagner put out a great video today, and it talked about how SEL isn't a supplement. It's not like something you push the curriculum aside for and teach them SEL and then bring the curriculum back. It's really like, if you're teaching about Rome, what a great time to teach about like leadership. And do you know what I mean? Like power and responsibility and all those pieces. I mean, it's really, you know, if without overlaying SEL in our curriculum, we don't really pull on the heartstrings of the students. We don't really get to the relevance in their own lives to have the curriculum have teeth. So it's really something that should be done together, in my opinion. And that student perception survey is really those components. You know, they're not even social emotional learning. They're just like what every learner needs to have as part of their learning in order for that learning to really matter and for them to feel like they want to do something with it and that it's deep learning. And so for me, it's that survey I used when I was a 5th grade teacher, and it gave me, you know, great information on whether I was providing enough challenge to my students or giving them avenues to contribute or making sure they have a sense of agency in the classroom. Super helpful.
I think that's what separates from like the good teachers from the excellent teachers, is taking something like Rome, like you said, and then melding those SEL facts in there. I mean, you can just teach Rome and just dictate it, but if you can take the SEL and merge it into two, right. We do have some advocates is like, it's all SEL, and we're like, no, it's not. Right. It's got to be a combination of the both, because if you don't have the combination of the both, you still need the content.
Sure.
But if you put the SEL on top of it and merge it somehow in a nice little package, it'll be fantastic. So being mindful of your time, I have one more question. What is Dr. Fast's New Year's resolution, top New Year's resolution for 2021?
It's a really good question too. So I have not done New Year's resolutions since 2011.
That's a long time.
There's a reason. No, so in 2011, it seems like this is like made up because it's so crazy, but in 2011, my daughter, who was 3 at the time, was in the pediatric intensive care unit at Dornbecker Hospital in Portland, Oregon, with flesh-eating bacteria. She was in a coma for almost a month. That's not true. 2 weeks, and she was in the hospital for almost a month. Sorry. And that on New Year's Day of 2011, I found out she was going to live, which was obviously huge for a mom. And so every New Year's Day, it just feels stupid to want for anything or to have a goal for anything other than just like living the crap out of this life we get to live and loving the people in it. And so for me, I have always struggled to live in the now. I always am like thinking to the future, always never content with what I've got going on. And so my New Year's resolution every year since then is just to try to live in the now, love the people around me, and be grateful for this life we get to live. That's all I got.
Well said. Well said. I mean, I'm glad your daughter, that's
it's crazy. Yeah.
I mean, I have 4 girls. If anything happened, to that, it's just, that takes you for a whirlwind.
Yeah.
So,
for sure.
But so for Dr. Fast, I do appreciate your time. We appreciate you being the first guest of 2021.
It's been great talking to you.
Oh, definitely. And, we hope to do it again. We got a long year. Things going on. So for myself, Silas Knowles, the ZB Pirate at pushpoundconsulting.com for the PB podcast, I want to thank everyone. Please share the YouTube video. This will be on audio for iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify, Anchor, the whole 9 yards. So please look out for that. On our Facebook page or Twitter page, we'll be doing a lot of pushing out information on that as well. What are you guys doing for the new year 2021 to push the boundaries of your classroom, either in person or online for your students? What are you doing to better yourself? What are you doing to push the status quo? We want to talk to you. So we'll see you soon. Dr. Fast, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.